Everett Worthington is one of the leading researchers, leading speakers, leading psychologists on what it means truly to forgive. And Everett Worthington's life of forgiveness was formed by at least one very tragic experience. On New Year's Eve, 1995, his mother was assaulted mortally by people who broke into her house. They didn't realize she wasn't home. They thought they were just going to steal some things, but she had no car in the garage because she didn't drive. The lights were out because she went to bed early on New Year's Eve, and they arrived to steal things, and they found her there, and because she was surprised and wanted to resist, she engaged with them, and they responded by killing her with, if I may say, brutally, with a crowbar. So Everett Worthington was placed on a path of how do I forgive in light of this moment? And he found within him, because of his experience of the grace of Christ, he and his siblings found that they were able to forgive the assailants of his mother and her murderer. But Worthington had a second experience that formed him. In 2005, his brother committed suicide. And as a psychologist who was studying forgiveness, he had to ask himself the question, how was it that I, as a psychologist, missed those signs? And that led him on a path of seeking forgiveness for himself. And out of this deep study of forgiveness psychologically, academically, and personally, he developed a method of teaching about forgiveness that Steve Cook and I taught on a few months ago on Wednesday nights, and I want to project it for you. It's the REACH method, and I'm doing this because it'll help you understand how he found a method to forgive and also how challenging it is. Because when Steve and I did this class, we asked ourselves and the rest of the class to think of somebody that we needed to forgive. I mean, you might do that right now. Think of somebody you need to forgive. And Worthington found that what we need to do to create true forgiveness is to recall the hurt, not to deny it, to empathize, E, with the person who hurt you. Again, this is the REACH model. This is an acrostic, R-E-A, altruistic gift of forgiveness, to give the gift of forgiveness. These two, E and A, are where we'll land with the scripture in a few minutes. To commit to forgive publicly, to let others know you are forgiving, like friends and maybe your small group or whatever. And then finally, to hold on to forgiveness even when it's challenging. So as I said, Steve and I led through this, and we found that in the 5 weeks we had in the class, it was really difficult, but good, to move through all these steps. And I was reminded of how difficult it is to forgive. I was reminded of this image that the Presbyterian pastor Lloyd Ogilvie once shared at a preaching conference I went to. And he said, when I forgive, I think of that scene in Jesus' life, you know, where the house is so crowded that these friends want to have their friend healed of his paralysis, so they lower him through the roof, right? You know this story perhaps? And Lloyd Ogilvie said, when I'm imagining forgiveness, I'm imagining this person that I need to forgive being lowered through the roof into the presence of Jesus. That he can be touched, or she can be touched by God's grace. And then he had a little quip. He said, every once in a while, boom, that person pops up out of my sight. And I have to take time to, again, forgive them by seeing them within God's grace. What does grace do? It leads us to forgive.